Hello guys, how are you getting on? We just did a podcast there with the lovely Angelina Nugent. You should probably all know her from Mayo. She was on Midwest for years and she's a sports journalist and she's fanatical about Gaelic football and all things sport. We talked about the Mayo team and her predictions, so make sure you check out the podcast. Up Mayo, boy. Up Mayo. Good luck.
Angelina, welcome back to the Dead Hedgehogs.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm just waiting for Pádraig O'Hora to join us, seeing as we were both on around the same time earlier this year. So when you can let me know.
Well, I believe it or not, I've been talking to Pádraig, and there's no way that any Mayo player is getting on any podcast or any interviews or anything. We were
listen, I'm happy about that too. Yeah, I have to say, I'm happy about that too. I know it's great to be here.
You'd be sickened if we got a scoop on you. That's why it's
sickened. Anyway, I'll wait until after Saturday to pat Pádraig O'Hora on the back of the head. But we'll wait for that.
Yeah, definitely, and he's one of the first we'll have on as well. When we booked him last year. After the All Ireland, we said, when you win the All Ireland this next year, I said you're going to be coming on, and we've been talking to him a few times since, and we were down in Ballina, myself and Peter when he comes back. We were down with them. We done the freeze for February, and it was a bit of crack. And we keep saying to him, when you win the All Ireland, this year, you'll come back on, and he will. I'm looking forward to that day.
What a guy who's grown into it. But I'm sure we'll be chatting about that. My God.
I'd say he's feeling the pressure now just because he wants to get back on the podcast. So
it's only because of the podcast. Nothing got to do with it. I believe that's the rumor I'm hearing from the squad. And there's a bust up in the squad at the moment because they're all fighting about who can get on the podcast next.
That's it. Exactly.
Not talking to each other. No. And James Horan, I believe, is picking the team based on who's been on the podcast.
Yeah. Brilliant. I'd like to believe you at that, but
I believe it's completely true. Yeah, it's Pádraig O'Hora from 1 to 15.
I was even talking to Cillian O'Connor and thinking at the time when I asked him that he was, being injured, then he might go on for 10, 15 minutes. He said, not a hope. He said Horan would blow a gasket if any of us broke protocol.
It's only right though. It's only fair.
It's 100% right. I was chatting to my arm more than anything, but
no, I totally agree, Pete. I was just saying that when we were chatting there, I work in media. I appreciate that people want to hear these players, but I also I would be raging if I heard these players on podcasts or radio interviews this week. So it's the right decision. I think they're minded really well, so that's a good thing.
Exactly, and they can go on. They can all come on the podcast after they've won it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're going to be so busy with them.
I know. We've James Carr, Cillian, hopefully, Pádraig O'Hora, we'll get them all on.
A 41-man squad, lads. So
we were just chatting there with John Mahan, and he was saying as well that hype, he would have loved to have that hype taken away in 96 to 97 and later on.
It's interesting. Do you think this year is a little bit, I found like I've gone a bit crazy. I've gone a bit crazy this week. I feel a bit crazy. Like I feel sick thinking about the match on Saturday evening.
Do you think we've came to the conclusion, but for everyone it's different, but we've came to the conclusion that there's a way more mature build-up to this match?
I don't know. I think it's really starting to kick in the last day.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think that what there is, and maybe it's because maybe it is more mature actually, Stephen, because maybe it's because of the fact that you can't have the in-face gatherings or the face-to-face gatherings. You know, like I know when I was in Midwest, there used to be a big show. It would actually be tonight or tomorrow night in the TF, and 1,200 people there, and interviews with players and all that. And there'd be 100 of those, because, you know, clubs would run them to try and raise a few bob for themselves. They'd have tickets to give away. There's none of those happening. What I think, and maybe it's because last year's All-Ireland was a little bit strange, obviously, and there was no crowd, and it kind of was all condensed into a 6-week championship or whatever. There's an awful lot more bunting and signs and flags and amazing.
That's 100%. That's one thing we agree on. Even Foxford, I passed through Foxford many times during the week, and they have made a serious effort. The colour around the country is phenomenal. And it's great. It's just magical to see. It's more than just a game.
Oh.
You know, I have these conversations in my head in the car.
But it always has been more than just a game.
Yeah.
I remember working in Dublin a couple of years ago, and there's a lad from Dublin when we were going to All-Ireland final against them, and he wasn't a football fan at all. He was a massive Liverpool fan. That was it. And he was asking me, and I was like, it's because it means so much more. I know what it would mean to just people at home on a regular basis. It lifts the whole county. If we were to do it, it would bring a smile to everyone's face.
Yeah.
And there's a loneliness sometimes to being from a very rural area, and that's gone away when Mayo are playing in All-Ireland, a big game in Croke Park. You know?
Yeah, like you know, it's funny you talk about the way you said that, Stephen. It's more than just a game, and you know, I'm not even slagging him off for once. My other half, I mentioned the last time I was on it, is from Longford, but like it's not because because he's from Longford, he's no interest in football, although it could be. It's not. There's one side of his family, like the Nugent side of the family, they're all Rooski, Kilglass Gaels in Roscommon. They're mad into football. They're involved at club level, inter-county level and everything in Roscommon, and great football people, but they just weren't in his house. But he actually said to me during the week, because he was talking about, because he works in Midwest, and he said, you know, I'm obviously going up to the match, but he said, you know, I'll have to go into the station probably on Saturday evening for this match. And I said, oh, right, okay, why? And he said, well, if they win, there's a couple, you know, we've a couple of things planned or whatever. And I said, right. And he said, why do you all go so crazy? And I said, you don't get it. And it's a funny thing to have to try and explain it now. And it wasn't even a row for once in the house. It was like, he just doesn't get
no comprehension.
Yeah, we're very lucky. We're very lucky, because I said to him, well, we're very lucky because it's a passion for us. Like he's listening to me on the phone to my sister all week about, first of all, it was tickets and did we all get sorted, and then it was, you know, who was injured, then it was Killian O'Connor might be in the match day squad, like what did he do? Has he been to Lourdes and had a miracle on his and he's listening to me going, this is cracker stuff. Like, this is an amateur game. And I said, well, that's what makes it all the more special. Do you realize, you know, what those lads, they sacrifice their lives, not 2 or 3 months of their lives every year, their lives for 10 or 15 years. It's an interesting one, that, because it's the first time I sat down and actually said to him, because I feel it more this year. I felt it every year, but maybe I can stand back a bit this year. And I was thinking, this would just, exactly what you said, Chris, the lift this would give to a lot of people. Everyone becomes one, whether you're from an urban or a rural area. You know, everyone's talking about tickets, everyone's talking about injuries, everyone's talking about who's coming back. Will Oisin Mullen be available? Will Owen McLaughlin be available? It's fantastic.
There's so many things to a game, especially an All-Ireland final, or an All-Ireland semi-final, but definitely an All-Ireland final. It's the run up to it. It's every man. You could have a podcast on the 15 players on the pitch. You could have a podcast about the squad. There's so many memories. There's so many, you know, expectations and dreams of especially a Mayo football team. And I'm sure it's the same for Kerry and Tyrone and Dublin. But the GAA, it just brings it all home. And it is more than just a game. And definitely we've had, with the history that we've had, especially in the last 25 years and more, and even the curse adds that mysticism to it. It's just a phenomenal thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I just, and you know, okay, they you know, they are. There's a huge tradition in in Kerry. You know, Tyrone will be wild for this as well. You know, everyone had them written off, especially before the Kerry game. Dublin have been the team of all teams over the past decade or so, but we are a little bit special. And we are a little bit cracked. And I said it to someone today. I was in Glenamaddy earlier today working, and I you know, was talking to a Galway guy. He seemed like a real good football guy, and he said, "You live 31 counties behind you." And I said, "Well, I don't know, but I said, it's good to hear the Connacht counties will be supporting us anyway." And he said, "Oh, stop," he said, "I would love to see you do it." But he said, "You know, the supporters, what is it that drives you to go each and every year and you never stop? You care about it as much one year to the other." And I said to him, "I don't know, but I said, I'm speaking for myself. I'm a little bit cracked when it comes to it's as simple as that. Like, and I am, and I like it's consumed me, especially since the other semi-final. It's consumed me totally. Obviously, the semi-final was just incredible, but then we had a bit of a lull because we didn't know who we were playing, and it's just consumed me because maybe you start thinking, are the stars aligning a bit? And then as I come into this week, I do the whole Mayo thing of, it's going to be awful tough. I'm 50-50 and I'm 50-50 on it now. I think we go through all those emotions. It's like a relationship of like doubt and the.
It really is a relationship that just keeps coming back every year.
Oh, 100%. And you think, I don't love them as much this year. Yeah. I'm not going to love them as much this year. It's bad for my health. And then we're all back at the same place.
100%.
It's there's obviously a lot of rumors, as you mentioned there, about Killian, about Oisin Mullins. Oisin Mullins is probably the most logical one, but Killian coming back into the fold this week would be
mad,
outrageous.
Outrageous. I mean, look, I was talking to a guy last night who would be a bit in the know or like, well, kind of maybe more in the know than I would be. And I just said to him, "What's the story like? Is this true? Like, is this even possible?" And he was saying, "I heard it at the weekend, thought there mightn't be much to it, but it looks like he's going to be in the match day squad." And I heard it again today. Now, you know, and we were making the point, like I was working with Radio 1 for the semi-final between Mayo and Dublin, and for the Connacht final between Mayo and Galway, doing the interviews afterwards. And on both occasions, like, we had sustained injuries in both games. And, you know, Pádraig Cahora actually in the Connacht final, if you remember, went off kind of with
That's right.
And then obviously Owen McLaughlin in the semi-final. And I asked him for, you know, injury updates. Every journalist does it. It's the standard question. You're not going to get too much out of it, you know, but you ask it anyway. And obviously asked about Owen McLaughlin and Oisin Mullin in that semi-final, and Killian and Jason Doherty. And, you know, his answer on all occasions was, you know, Killian's is a season-ending injury. You know, it's you know, that's it. We're not going to see Killian. So it's only kind of the formality of asking him the question. But no, I'm not saying he's going to tell me if Killian is making super progress. But like, the lad was in a cast. We saw him at games in the cast, in the boot. I was doing a programme with 53.6 for Air in McHale Park on Killian. I don't know, well, it was before the semi-final, maybe 6 weeks ago now at this stage. And I know that it was Killian was the focus of it, and he was arriving later, and I think he'd just gotten out of the cast and into the boot.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean,
but he had Achilles surgery, did he? He had surgery in his Achilles.
Yeah.
I can't see him coming on, but then again, you don't know. Was it like he had surgery?
Would it be a thing that we're 5 or 6 points ahead with 5 minutes to go and maybe throw him on just to run around?
No, but he could get injured again.
I love the way Stephen is like, we're 5 or 6 points, like, sure, you know, like, he'll just be running on, like, it's only a final, like, he'll just be running around there. We're sorry, and lads, you know, Mayo, we're 5 or 6 points ahead, and we're all still going, oh God, is it over yet?
Yeah, as soon as I said it, I was like, even if I was 10 points ahead with 5 minutes to go.
I don't know. I mean, it's crazy. But even, you know, Oisin Mullin, lads, is another one. And it's, okay, it looks like it's going to happen now. He'd probably start, from what I'm hearing. Oisin Mullin tore that quad. That's 8 weeks to 3 months of recovery for the ordinary Joe Soap. Well, not even the ordinary Joe Soap, the ordinary footballer. I mean, I know he's been super. I mean, it's incredible. Now, I know they've done everything they can. And Owen McLaughlin, you know, double jaw fracture, might not start, but looks like
it's a risk. Is it not a risk to bring on them players then? Do you know what I mean? If something goes wrong.
I wondered about that, Pete. I especially young lads, you know, or any age player, but you know, you'd hate to think that they do something that would injure them further, or that they'd be carrying a permanent kind of scar.
The only thing I'd say
I don't think James Horan would do that. I really don't think he'd take that sort of a risk, being honest.
I do think though that if they were to play them, I think they know that they have a bench this time, that if it does go, they'll know straight away. And after even 15 or 20 minutes, they do have the bench to replace a player this time, as we didn't have a good bench over the previous years.
I think that's where Oisin Mullins, his quad injury is a muscle injury, which comparatively to a torn
ligament
or a broken jaw, you know, that's the one that is most likely to be back in time. You know, he could have it might have been as severe as first thought, because it might be
maybe.
You know, lads, I the last time I was on with you, we were joking. I was on crutches, and I had at that stage I knew I did ligament damage. I was actually making this point in the gym this morning to two of the lads in the gym. When we were talking, of course, we were talking about the final, strangely enough, and talking about players coming back, and Killian and Oisin and Owen. And I was like, I am still really struggling with lots of pain, with, you know, a torn ATFL, which isn't healing. Now, I know I'm not an elite sports person, and I'm not claiming to be, although...
don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up.
The consultant did tell me you usually see this injury in high-level sports people. Now, that was him, not me. He's the trained one. And the fact that I did it in a pothole makes it not very glamorous. But, you know, but I was making the point, like, I'm so frustrated at this stage. Like, it's 7 months down the line, and I have, you know, I've no right power in my foot, and it'll be a long road, and it could be surgery. And I was just making the point to the two lads who were kind of helping me, they're helping me rehab or whatever. And I was saying, this is like, it's mental to think that these players, like, I only want to get back to walking normally and not having pain in my foot. Like, they're talking about playing maybe 70, 80 minutes. Of the highest level game you can play in this country. And they're only weeks after injury. Like, there's something absolutely, now the hunger they have to get back as well.
But sorry if I was cutting you off there, Angelina, but how would Killian be able to kick the ball? Which Achilles did he injure? Was it his right or his left? Or like, how is he, like, the 2 feet, you need the 2 feet to kick the ball.
I think his right, from memory, from seeing the cast on it. I think right. I think now I could be completely wrong on that. I just think from memory and seeing him just, you know, a couple of the games now with the boots on and stuff. I think it was his right. But even so, I mean, you know more about these sorts of, you know, impact injuries from the feckin' runs that you do and all of that, and like, I'm sure that has to be like, Achilles is supposed to be awful debilitating, like.
Yeah, apparently there's not much blood supply to the Achilles as well, so it takes longer to heal. Do you know what I mean? And he got surgery, so that's even crazy. I can't see him coming on, but then again, maybe it's not as bad as, maybe it wasn't as bad as they once thought.
Maybe it wasn't. No more than Owen McLaughlin's. They reckon it's where the fracture was in the jaw. That it wasn't, maybe while he had a double jaw fracture, that maybe, and I don't know where the position of it was, that's allowed him to be a little bit more. Now, I had a conversation with Cora Staunton the day after that game in Croke Park again, because we were both working again for the under-20 final and the Meath Cork ladies game, and we were chatting about Owen McLaughlin, and she was saying that years ago she had a broken jaw. She suffered a broken jaw in a game. I think it was a club game. I think, now I could be wrong on that as well, but she was like, at that time it was 8 weeks wired up, no solid food. That was it.
Wow.
But her point to me that day was the things they can do nowadays. I just remember her saying that. She said, I wouldn't know anything in or out, especially, we knew at that stage, we didn't know when the final was going to be, but we knew it was probably going to be pushed out. That was her point. So, like, you know, I don't know, but yeah, it's crazy stuff. I don't, with Killian, I don't know. And the other side of it is, like, where does he come into a match day squad?
Yeah. Do you bring him on in a few minutes to go, or I don't know?
It has to be a few minutes to go. Just let him run around, like.
But it's the same. It's the same with Owen McLaughlin. Where would you play Owen McLaughlin? Or now another question, would a team, the opposite team, knowing that he had a broken jaw, would they home in it? Would they use that?
100%. Well, look, I don't know. I'm saying this and I'm not accusing Tyrone of anything.
No, it doesn't have to be Tyrone. I mean, any team.
Well, we're playing Tyrone on Saturday, but yeah, I mean, like, absolutely, these lads are targets for stuff. They
Well, put it this way, but let me play devil's advocate. They'd be fools not to. Do you know what I mean?
100%. Well, like, you know, we were accused of being too nice in the GA.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we're a little bit more teak tough now. You know, you talk about, you know, the likes of Killian. He likes to let his marker or markers.
Oh, 100%.
When he's playing in a game, and you know, yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Pete. I think you think a fella has.
I remember it was 2017. Was that when we had the draw and then we went and we lost by a point?
Yeah.
In the game that we lost, I can't remember what Dublin player it was, but he was in the forwards, and he was out on his feet, and everyone could see it, but bar the Mayo players, or not the Mayo players didn't see it, but they didn't, you know, nail them for that. They should have been putting ball into that area and working from there. They just missed the trick, or whether it was the sideline or whether it was the players themselves. We just too nice.
Yeah. But also, do you remember a few years ago when Killian injured his collarbone or his shoulder? Yeah. And there was rumors that they actually wrapped the other side and showed the other side. So they showed, they say it was the left side that was injured. They said they wrapped the right side. Well, obviously they wrapped the two of them, but they showed the right side. So if they were going to attack them, they were going to attack his good side. I don't know if that was true.
They say you learn something new every day. I don't
know if that was true or not. I don't know if that was true.
That's Tyrone giving away the tactics now, Pete.
Yeah. he played. He'll come on with a boot on the other foot.
Yes.
On Saturday. No, I mean, he played that entire
video.
Yeah.
You could have shot that video with the boot on the other foot.
Yes,
he could have, absolutely, yeah, 100%. I was trying to think from the cast, because I saw him going into one of the championship games.
Yeah, I thought it was the right.
I mean, look, I could be wrong on that, but yeah, no, like it's like tactics are tactics. It's an All-Ireland final, and I'll flip the situation. If we were here talking about a Tyrone player that may possibly be on a weakness, and I wish no player any ill, my God, it's awful to see a young lad injured on the pitch. And Owen McLaughlin, you know, that evening, I know he was one of our own, but to see someone in distress, I'll compare it as well to Shane Welch in the kind of Rob Finnerty in the kind of final. It was desperate to see him going off like that, because you know, like it's a desperate thing to see a player injured and in distress. But if we were talking about a Tyrone player with a weakness that we knew about, we'd be saying we were daft not to expose it. So
of course.
Yeah. Now I don't know. I don't know. Will Owen McLaughlin start? None of us know. None of us know, and we won't know, I think, until 5 o'clock or whatever.
Let's have a quick chat about that injury. I was in Sweden watching it in the pub.
I watched that. That was a lovely video. You weren't watching.
It was, yeah. that was
very level-headed. Yeah.
That was the calm version of.
That was realistic. That was realistic.
We have a longer video. We have that.
I was in the press box trying to keep a lid in it, because, of course, I'm impartial when I'm in the press box in Croke Park. It was terrible.
So, by the way, anyone that doesn't want to watch that video, just become a patron. It's on there.
Yeah. We have a longer video just on
brilliant.
We have a longer one.
Straight on to watch that when I come off. Yeah, okay. But go on.
Yeah, Steve, what were we going to say? You were talking about the tackle.
There was an awful lot of talk about it. Was it meant? Did he mean to do any harm? Was it that he took his eye off the player? What's your opinion, Angelina?
I'm going to be completely honest about it first, because I could come on here and claim, I saw it 100%, and I immediately in the press box said that's a horrific tackle. I didn't, and I'm going to be really fair to Kevin McStay here, because Kevin McStay came in for a lot of.
He did.
For not calling it. I obviously I didn't hear the commentary until afterwards when I watched.
And we give him a lot of slack as well for it as well.
And sometimes that sort of criticism is deserved. And but I have to say, we were in similar positions in that press box, and I'll tell you what I did. I can't say for Kevin, except that it seemed to be something similar. I kept following the ball. I saw a Mayo player go down, but Dublin looked like they were in for a goal. Now, Robbie Hindley stretched really well, the far post for it, and he may have gotten to it. Thank God we didn't need to find out. But I kept following the ball, and I was in the press box is in the upper Hogan, it's in level 7, and I was sitting on a single row of seats near where the supporters came into a part of the stand, and there was a lovely steward, Eamon was his name, because he was there on the Sunday as well. We made great friends that weekend, and he wasn't from Mayo, he was from the Midlands somewhere, but he was cheering for Mayo as loudly as any of us here. And he was the one who came over to me, and I have to be fair, and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Did you see that tackle on young McLaughlin?" And I said, "Well, I kind of didn't really. I saw it. I saw there was a coming together." And he said, "That was horrific." He said, "That man should go straight away." He said it was one of the smalls. I think he watched it. He kept his eyes there where it was very difficult to see in the ground. Now, I mentioned Cora Staunton earlier. When I met her that evening, the TV crew are over on a kind of self-built platform further over, kind of in the corner between the hill and the Hogan. Yeah. And she said they had a perfect view of it there, and she knew straight away his jaw was broken because she could see the blood in his mouth and stuff, and into his face. Whereas you definitely couldn't see that from where we were. Like, he was immediately, thank God, you know, kind of, there was players around him, and there was the one thing that worried me was how quickly they sought the medical assistance. I mean, it was within seconds they were calling for the stretcher. But it wasn't until I watched it afterwards. I think it was a horrific tackle. I think it was an absolutely horrific tackle. I don't know what, you know, your final kind of verdict of it was when you talked about it, whether it was meant or not. Look, does any player go out to do something like that intentionally? I hope not. Yeah. I hope they don't. I really hope, you know, that they don't. But I do think that there should have been. I mean, I think the referee was obviously down on the pitch in a prime position, and the linesman. The linesman, 100%. Whatever the referee following the play, exactly, Chris. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the linesman was in a prime.
The two of them, like, there's two duties of care I look at, right? So the tackler has the duty of care, and the referee has the duty of care. The officials have a duty of care, and there is a failure on all accounts because the referee and the linesman let the play go on, gave Dublin a goal advantage. John Smalls, I don't give a shit what anyone says. He went to take his head off. It was a bad pass. It was there to
the hospital pass or whatever.
But you see, the thing is, we came to the conclusion. We came to the conclusion, and I was the only one that was debating. I was debating that maybe it was a late tackle, and he didn't mean to break his jaw. Like, I think he was meant to go. I think he was going shoulder to shoulder, but your man was too fast getting the ball. I think that's what it was. But that's what I thought. But then I looked at it again, and I was thinking, hang on a second. There was another tackle then later on, and he actually went in even harder and tried to, take somebody out. So I was like, if he went in that second tackle, there's no reason why he wouldn't have went in the first tackle. Do you know what I mean?
I do think that, he probably had a job, and look, Dublin didn't win All Ireland's by being really nice guys.
Well, that's what I said as well.
Footballers. Yeah. They're exceptional footballers. We can never take that away from them, but they've never been. They've now, we played them at their own game in the last 5 minutes of that game, toying with, with a lot of, which was brilliant to see because we were so naive in other years, and being a bit more cynical and taking the few extra seconds. But I do look, it's when I watched it back a couple of times, I mean, and to even see, I know people got screen grabs of it very quickly, and I suppose it's not the joy or the pain of, because I do think, no more than Tom Parsons' injury a few years ago, all I think of, when those WhatsApps are circulating, and I know it's we were all hungry for information, is there's lads' parents somewhere, and they wouldn't have been able to get down onto that pitch. They were probably at the match. They know their son is in distress. Like, I really, that worries me, because does that arrive to some member of his family, where they're seeing that? Because you could see it in the stills, like
100%,
the impact of it, and his head, and it looks horrific.
But just to, before we wrap this up, it's like, I think there definitely should be, like, it's a hard game. Hard tackles have to be allowed, but if you miss
100%.
If you mistime something, there should be massive recourse for it. If you're going to live on the edge, you're going to have to be punished.
But the thing that pissed me off about it, he followed through with the elbow as well.
But like, we were making the debate for like I was saying, there's referees, right? And nothing against referees, some great referees, and they do the best they can. But their GA players are almost professional athletes. They're more or less professional athletes. So they have a GA referee that's in his 30s or 40s, and he's trying to keep up with professional athletes. Why don't they have two referees, one for each half?
They tried, didn't they, in the
compromise rules. The compromise rules, they had
didn't they try it in the provincial competitions one winter? Did they not?
That I don't know. I don't agree with that, because again, I'm going back to the traditionalism.
Yeah,
that's instilled in me. But I do agree that
the 1930s.
The referee,
you'd be still kicking the ball off the sideline for the the ground.
No, I'm that. And I don't agree. I still don't agree with the mark either. But anyway.
I have. Yeah,
black football boots for everyone.
Whatever about the outfield mark.
No long hair either. You're not allowed long hair either. No tattoos either, cowboy. No tattoos.
Strawberry. Fucking shave those sideburns.
You know, if you cut off Pádraig O'Hora or Oisin Mullen's hair, they're like Samson. They lose their strength.
That's what I'm saying about the beard as well.
Yeah.
What are you saying about the mark, Angelina?
Oh no, I mean the offensive mark is. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
But Cowboy, you'll change your tune if Aidan O'Shea in the 75th minute catches the ball.
That's very true.
I wouldn't let Aidan O'Shea take it.
He has to take it because it's the mark.
I know. And listen,
he redeems himself.
we were saying that he in our last podcast that he comes in for some criticism that he does not deserve. He just needs easy target.
No, 100%. He always has, and it's because he's the young player came up through the ranks. There's a player in every generation that's kind of stands out like that, is very recognizable. Big man, and has made a name for himself outside of football, and he's dead.
Yeah, and there's more power to him.
More power to him, and I mean, look, the some of the stuff that was written about him even this week again.
Yeah,
like
do you play him, Angelina? Where do you play?
Yeah, I start him, and I was listening to Shamey actually yesterday evening on, I think it was on 2FM. I know Shamey was doing a kind of round of media interviews this week as well. Yeah, I definitely start him. I would always start him. I think it's quite ironic. I didn't want Kerry in a final. Because it's very difficult to beat in the final, and then after 35 minutes of the semi-final, I was like, I'll take Kerry in a final because they're
I would love to.
And I'd have popped Aidan on the edge of the square, and I think he'd have created havoc against that Kerry defence. I still start him. I think I'm not dropping Matty Rowan or Conor Loftus. We've a really athletic, fast-paced midfield coming forward. Diarmuid O'Connor, is in or around there as well. They're strong, they're fast, they're tenacious. But I think you start Aidan, you start him in around that forward line, let him drift out a bit. It could get very, very tough around that midfield, with those Tyrone boys. Like, they're not going to hold back. Aidan's a big man. He's not afraid to take, a few digs as well. I think you definitely start him. I think James Horton showed massive maturity in taking that man off.
Yeah, I meant to say that. It was a big call.
Huge call, and he had to do it.
It changed the game. It changed the game
completely. Oh, it did. I mean, Enda Hession came on. Now I have to admit, I could say, I thought it was great. I saw Enda Hession coming on. I thought, God, this lad is a young lad coming on against Dublin. Like, what's he doing? He threw off.
Cut through them. He cut through
them. Ran at them.
But another thing was that Dublin had a plan, and Aidan O'Shea was in that plan. But once you took on Aidan O'Shea out of it, their plan was gone, and they had no backup plan.
And Mayo started playing with a little bit more. Well, they were so far behind, they had to, I suppose, as well.
Yeah.
But you could see them kind of going.
We
better go for this now. Like, Enda Hession was making drives. Tommy Conroy and Ryan O'Donoghue were being played into the game more. I felt there was probably too much focus in Mayo's initial game plan of popping it into Aidan O'Shea. Now, if it works, amazing, because he could blast in 2 or 3 goals there, or he'd have 2-1 or 2-2, which is what he's going to do. I've planned for the for the final. I'm manifesting it as we speak. But yeah, he could, and if it worked, But a really good point, and I didn't know it until afterwards. And again, James Horan mentioned it. I hadn't heard it coming up to the final or to the semi-final. Like Aidan O'Shea was in a boot until 2 days before that semi-final.
John Mon just said that before you came on there. He was saying not a lot of people knew that he had an ankle injury before that.
James Horan actually mentioned, and I got kind of taken aback when he said it in the interview, because I thought, because you ask him about this now. I said, it's a big call, and in fairness to him, he said, but he said these calls, they go right for you, you're a hero. They can also go very wrong for you, and he's your captain. But no, I do start him. I do think there's a couple of things with Aidan O'Shea. I think first of all, the lad had a bad day. We all have bad days. Whatever we work at, this isn't their job either, remember, but whatever we do in life, we can have an off day. I think that there's a huge game in him, whether it comes on Saturday or not. I think there's a huge game in him. I think Aidan will feel he played below par, and I think that's a great thing. Twist that round, and I'm not saying it's not a cockiness, but it's maybe a more self-assured or a bit more confidence. If Aidan O'Shea had blown Dublin away, played the 70 minutes, we win that game a lot easier and don't make it as hard for ourselves. Maybe he's given his best game of the season in that semi-final. Then I still think it's a big game in him. I don't think he's afraid of the way Tyrone play. And I don't know, was it Andy Moore? I saw saying that in an interview today as well. The Tyrones, the Donegals, like Aidan does really well against them, because it's not the same sort of play as a Dublin or a Kerry or even Galway. Like he gets stuck in, and no, I definitely start him. I don't say I don't. And listen, James Horan has showed he's not afraid to make a big call like that when it's needed. And he'll make the big call. I have no doubt about that. It's not always going to work for you. So, I think, it's hard not to criticize him. We all do it, and we all love a chat about a game afterwards. But,
Plus as well, remember that when used right, there'll be two people on Aidan or watching Aidan all the time.
And what happens with Tommy Conroy and Ryan O'Donoghue then? See, they're freed up to be a little bit. I was having this conversation with this friend of mine last night, and we were chatting about it. You throw Aidan in there, and they have to watch him, because like one good ball into him that he holds the chest and turns can be deadly dangerous. And then you have Ryan O'Donoghue and Tommy Conroy, who can run they do 2 games back to back, one after another. Coming in in that danger.
Some people were making the argument for, and not me, I wasn't making the argument for it, but maybe some people were making the argument for bringing him on as a sub. And like an impact sub. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. I think
is that a risk? Is that a risk?
The only thing you'd worry is that you don't have enough leaders to start the game. And if we do, hopefully not, but if we do have to contend with an early goal, then that's where you worry that you have leaders in the right positions that throughout the pitch. Like the other side is when O'Shea's on the pitch against Dublin, they put Owen Merchant as the second man sweeping up around him, and Owen Merchant's the quickest player in GA. One of them. So you've got that little fella sniffing around, picking up every breaking ball, and they just put whoever they want beside O'Shea just to grab on him and make a nuisance of themselves, not leave him with any easy ball into his chest. I'm not sure if Tyrone have that combination that can trouble Aidan as much. Hopefully not. We'll soon find out on Saturday. But I think he's a certainty to start. I think he, as you said, can cause absolute havoc just off the square.
And if you remember back to the Connacht final, and I actually think Aidan's performance in that kind of final was a bit underrated, or I didn't hear maybe many people talking about it.
That's true.
But at the end of that first half, when they moved him inside, when Mayo again were absolutely in huge bother by the end of the first half, and we'd conceded those 2 goals. Aidan caught a couple of balls, and had the half gone on a little bit longer, I honestly believe that he was going to either contribute to a big goal, or he was going to score it himself. And the tide had started to change a little bit before half time, and I do think that he had a big impact on that. Sometimes he does a lot of the dog work, like you'll see Aidan drifting back out and doing maybe a lot of the dog work that he doesn't get credit for. And and look, maybe the impact sub thing works, but I personally will be starting him, but I'm not for very good reason. I think
he has a great discipline as well. I think
huge discipline. I mean, Aidan O'Shea.
It's true. It's true.
Never mind what people are writing about him. This fella's flaking him, left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
You very rarely see that man. Okay, he came on at halftime to have a little chat with Philly in the semi-final when he had been substituted, but he was only having a chat with him. So,
Yeah.
The game was over at that stage anyway.
Yeah.
He's lucky he didn't get chastised for coming on as he was wearing the bib, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
100%. I think it's just that at that point, and we all know that, like, the referee had lost complete control of things.
Yeah.
And I think that, it was at full time, wasn't it, halftime? Sure. Like he had lost control of things, and I think that he probably felt okay. I just blow this up, and there was no point in getting into like a chat with one or the other about anything, because it was just the control was gone from him at that.
And there's no extra time this time around, so it could be a replay.
How do we feel about that? I'm not great about that. To be honest, I like this on the day.
I actually the more, and even throughout this podcast and the previous podcast, the more I'm talking about it, the more I'm thinking we won't need extra time.
Yeah.
Oh, Stephen, big statement.
Or replay.
I'm
out of interest, I know I'm going to get to watch it, but what's John Maughan? You said at the outset, I'm interested to hear about that John Maughan said if you could have taken away some of that hype in 96, 97, does he feel it's more of a mature build up too then?
Yes, 100%, yeah. And like this one too, you see, it's easy to talk when there's four people on the same page, like me, Chris, Peter, and yourself, and it's the same with John. When everyone is on the same channel, it's a smooth talk, so it's a brilliant chat, and even the hit, like we were watching him in 96 and 97 on the sidelines. It's to be talking in a podcast about Mayo football again. It's crazy.
Look, and I'll tell you something, talking about a man, that's a whole other podcast. Tomás O'Shea with him in Offaly next year.
Big
serious,
yeah.
Like if you got it handed to Offaly after an All-Ireland final win a couple of weeks ago, they've I think Shane Lowry coming into the fold and supporting them, it's really rejuvenated them. John's really got going.
And to be fair, John, he put in a solid shift with them, getting them out, getting them promotion. I know that their Division 4 final didn't end up the way he wanted it to. And he wanted to play it. It was one of the few that went ahead. But I think he's done major work there again. He's probably brought it. You're talking about discipline and kind of
discipline, Even chatting to him during the week setting up the podcast, he has this authoritative tone.
I found that when I was working with him on Mayo GATV, but I do think he's a great reader of the game. So I was just interested to hear that, it's great to hear a man talk about the experience that they
he said definitely that the hype, he didn't have that, and also that there's 23 support crew around the manager just for one manager for one team, whereas they wouldn't have had that at the time. Like he was dealing with tickets, he was
everything.
People were ringing him constantly, everything.
What about the coolest man in football though? Kieran McDonald.
McDonald.
Give a big shout out to him as well.
Just the fact that he's there alone has to take the pressure off James Horan, because he's the coolest man in football.
Will he take? Would you see him taking over after James Horan? Will he go into management?
It's a big question, isn't it? I thought you were going to ask me, would you see him coming on for 10 minutes? I reckon he'd be fit. I was calling for it. The big surprise won't be Killian in the matchday squad. It'll be McDonald.
That'd be some crack.
I tell you,
that'd be some crack.
Oh man, imagine outside of the boot.
Like he's setting up training drills there in Croke Park, and you're watching him, and he's looking at the post, and he just wants to ping them over, and he's just anyway. It's a big question, Stephen. I don't know. I mean, what are his aspirations? I know one thing I'd heard about him when he was involved in the underage, just prior to taking up this road, when there was a lot of chat, because he missed James Horan's first year, and there was all the talk when James Horan was reappointed that Kieran McDonald was coming in, and then it didn't happen in the first year, and everyone was going, oh, that must have all been nonsense, and then he came in the second year, but he was working with some of the underage academies and that, and I believe his love for it, his love for coaching lads, for imparting, I suppose, or sharing the knowledge he has or the talent that he has with them is huge. I don't know, because he's the type of guy that likes to keep himself to himself. And you know, the stuff that comes with it, in fairness,
The media side of it wouldn't really.
Yeah, all that media stuff and that. I mean, he's only done a couple of interviews ever. So would that be something that he'd be, you know, comfortable with? Is he more comfortable kind of in the role he's in now? I think he's had a huge influence, lads. I think he's had a huge influence in the couple.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Well,
he's a winner. Like, he's a winning attitude.
100%. He's our Roy Keane in some ways, and I don't mean that as an insult to him. But he wants things to be of a certain standard. But James Harden is very much like that. A certain standard, expects high standards, but sets high standards in the way they do everything as well, I'd imagine. So, you know, very, very much like that Dublin setup under Jim Gavin, I would feel. You know, that is my kind of, you know,
do you think, getting back to Dublin now that you said Jim Gavin, do you think we took Dublin on their decline?
Yeah, look, this is something, you know, I was saying this to, you know, my sister, the nightly chats about it now for the last 4 weeks. I do. Look, let's be honest. I don't think Dublin were the team they were a couple of years ago. I think we could have taken Dublin in a final last year if we had the bench we have this year.
Yes.
I think their bench, you know, in the second half, we had lost Paddy Durkin at half time. They brought on a couple of guys and it completely changed the game in the second half. He had lost an all-star, like a guy who was having a great game. So I think this year, the one thing that gave me a bit of hope, now I have to say, by the Wednesday when I heard Oisin Mullen was out, I was like, this is it, it's gone from us again. We've lost Killian, we've lost Jason Doherty, now we've lost Oisin Mullen. Like, how are we going to win this game? But I do think the one thing I was looking at prior to that even was the bench that we have this year. We have a much stronger bench, and I thought a much stronger bench than they had. And no disrespect to the lads they had coming off the bench, but they weren't the same caliber. Like, we had lost what, 7 or 8 lads in the last year. They lost the same amount, and they lost some really big names that would have been, you know, they would have been game changers that were coming on for 20 minutes, or the impact subs, as we talked about earlier. And they weren't there. And you had lads who weren't at that level of experience, you know, on the bench. So I did think that was one thing for us. I do think they were a bit on the decline. I don't think you'd have seen Dublin sit back as early as they did to try and control the game. If they were, you know, the team of 5 or 6 years ago. But also, and sorry, Chris, to finish the point, but I'm not taking away from Mayo at all, because what I do think we have, and this is one thing, I think we spoke about this on the podcast after the final last year, and we did it earlier in the year, the young lads James Harden has brought in this time. I think we have found a wealth of talent. Yeah. Like, you look at Oisin Mullen, at Owen McLaughlin, at Pádraig O'Hora, a lad who hasn't played at this level consistently before. He's been in and out of the panel. You look at Ryan O'Donoghue, Tommy Conroy, very inexperienced in the final last year. Ryan O'Donoghue had to step up and take the boots of the highest ever scorer in the championship. Right. And the lad is doing it with such maturity and such calmness. And so I think the players that he's brought in, but also the one thing I really like about it, they're playing for each other. Kerry my sister made this point, and she's one you should have on the podcast. She's some great, she's a great football brain, but she was saying, I don't know what it is with Kerry. They have such great individual players, but they're not playing for each other.
Yeah.
Whereas they might have the David Cliffords but we're playing for each other at the minute. And look at Pádraig O'Hora's interview after that Dublin game. That squad are so tight, and that, you know, that's a huge thing. That Harden is back where he was when he had them at the height of his last reign, where they were very much a squad and very much playing for each other. And you know, I think we did take Dublin on the decline, but I also think it's because maybe of our hunger and our power. When Mayo run at teams, Dublin have said that. I don't know if you watch any of Paddy. I know you're busy with your own podcast, but Paddy and Andy on the off the ball one,
really good.
Tommy, like, it's really good. It's really but like Paddy Andrews was saying that, like, you know, he made that point before the Mayo Dublin game. Like, we hated playing Mayo, he said, because when they ran at Shellac, we knew we were going to be in a battle. Yeah. And that's not soft soaping it. It's just, I think they always had, serious team, but they just had that edge with the bench they had and the players they had when we were playing them. Just that little edge. You know?
100%. But in saying that Dublin are on the decline, nobody'd be surprised if Dublin won the All-Ireland next year.
100%. And you know what, Pete? Had that game gone another way,
Yeah.
I'd probably be tipping Dublin for Saturday.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like,
So-
that's the reality of it.
That is true.
Dublin on the decline is Dublin maybe coming back down a couple of rungs on the ladder. It's not,
Yeah.
You're not talking about, like, you know, Dublin completely
implosion.
rise of football. No way. I think Jim Gavin was a bigger loss from them than a lot of people realise.
I think so too, yeah.
That All Ireland last year, but I think Gavin just, no more than what James Horan seems to have with that team now. I think Gavin just had a different level of.
Yeah.
Well, he seemed to have them all on side, no matter what. He did a Mourinho on it where he had that siege mentality.
Yeah,
they're all against us.
Absolutely.
You know?
And
But
the Cluxton thing was strange. You know, the Cluxton thing was strange.
It was very strange. You know, that wouldn't have happened with Jim Gavin.
No way. And there'd be no such thing as Jim Gavin coming out, even if Stephen Cluxton wasn't happy and wasn't in the squad. That interview Desi Farrell gave was very strange.
Very peculiar. It was very peculiar.
Well, I don't know if he's retired and the door is open, and I don't really know, and I haven't spoken to him. Not Jim Gavin. And look, that's it. I do believe, you know, and again, just talking to people who know some of the people that were involved with Desi Farrell in underage in Dublin, I believe he's a great people person. You know, that's the word out, and he you know, he's done great work at underage level there. But you see, they probably were so used to that, as you said, Chris, that siege mentality with Gavin. They had 110% faith in everything Jim Gavin did. And I think sometimes when you change a manager, it can be hard to readjust to what he does differently. Yeah.
Predictions for Saturday.
Go around the house first and listen to everyone else.
You've sorted us out with tickets, yeah?
I've
got tickets for us, yeah?
Oh yeah, 100%. Where did you Lower Hogan? Just there at the presentation.
It's all right.
Oh yeah, I'm dropping them swim for tomorrow. I just that was the case. Yeah.
We'll have a couple do that.
Okay, we didn't actually make predictions in the last podcast, but I'm going to nail my colours to the mast.
I think I know the way you're going.
Right, I'm going 216 to 115 to Mayo. That's
high scoring goal.
There'll be a lot of goals in it.
It's a high scoring game.
Yeah.
Wow. I call that an All Ireland standard game.
But you know, there could be a lot of weighing each other up early on in this one too.
Might be. But we've weighed. Look, I've often weighed up things in the past. It took a while, but you know, finished on.
I won't even ask what. I don't want to know what.
Chris, what do you think? Chris, what do you think?
I think I don't think there'll be many goals. I think both sides will shut out. I think it'll be something like 17 points to 14 to Mayo. I think Mayo.
That's the same score as the semi-final, Chris, isn't it?
I think it'd be around that. I think Mayo comes strong in the second half.
I think it's going to be a draw, and it's going to be 1-6 to 1-6. 1-6 to 1-6.
Steve, if it's 1-6 to 1-6, James Horan will be resigning afterwards going, I can't believe I coached a junior B club to an All-Ireland.
1-6 to 1-6, I guarantee it.
I guarantee it.
110 to 112 draw.
No, it's going to be. I don't know about the score. But I'd say it could be a draw.
I don't know if I can take the draw.
And it's not. There's no extra time as well, so I think it's going to be a draw. I think so.
Yeah, and it's all looking for tickets again. Are you joking me?
And Pete's been very, very accurate with his predictions. He really has.
Actually.
If it ends 1-6 to 1-6,
if it's 1-6 to 1-6, yeah.
Apart from the score, but I think it's going to be a draw. I was kind of joking at 1-6, but you never know.
Well, yeah, I actually met a lad here in Ballard during the week, and he can't go to it because it's communion. And he said to me, I said, oh God, love you, And he said, yeah, but he said, you won't be laughing when I have my tickets got for the replay, because he said it'll be a draw.
No.
I don't know. I think it's going to be an awful tight game. I'd kind of side with Chris and the lack of kind of goals. I think what Mayo tried to do against Dublin was shut down a bit.
It was dangerous. It was dangerous.
It was a dangerous game because Dublin got so far in front, and then their ability to control a game when they're that far in front was the worry. And in fairness, Mayo did so well. I think we were trying not to concede early goals like we did before in every game against Dublin. I think you'll see a bit of caginess from both teams probably, because it's new, it's fresh for them. I can, like, I'm all week betwixt and between. Like, I have to. You know, I sometimes play it that, like, you know, we're not. Are we going to do this eventually? No, it's never going to happen for us. What's going to happen if we win it? I do think stars are aligning a bit for Mayo, though. If that's not too, woo. I think the fact that he could have Oisin Mullen, Owen McLaughlin, who knows about Killian, to come on when we're 5 or 6 up, Stephen, in the last few minutes and run around.
Kieran McDonald.
Might drop 2 points then.
Kieran McDonald. The fact that we have these lads to call on, like, I do think this hasn't happened to us before. We're usually losing players in the week before a final, big players with injuries.
Yeah, that's true.
I think a point, 2 points at the most, a Mayo win, like something like 16 points to 14, 16 points to 15. I think we'll be chewing our nails right up until the last minute. And who knows, then Tyrone could get that equaliser and we could be back.
The scoring when Mayo beat Tyrone in 2004 was 16 points to 1-9. So
that's one.
There you go. Was that when O'Shea got a penalty? He was going through and he got a penalty, and they were complaining he dived. Do you remember? Was that match?
We
Tyrone. Or was that Tony Gall?
Great record against Tyrone.
This is 2004. Tyrone with the All Ireland win in 2003.
Aidan O'Shea wouldn't have been playing.
No.
Oh, I was thinking of Tony Gall. I think it was when they were playing Tony Gall. Sorry.
Yeah, they had one against Fermanagh, Pete, that there was it was a qualifier game in Castlebar. He got a lot of slack for
diving.
Well, he fell. You know,
maybe it was Fermanagh. I thought it was in Croke Park.
Oh no, maybe there probably was another one. There was. Do you remember? But I remember the qualifier game where, like, we're actually going out of that. We were going out of it, and we're very lucky. He did fall where he fell.
Yeah. Yes. So maybe he might fall again. He might fall again at the right time.
As long as he doesn't hurt himself, I hope he does.
This time I take it.
No, I mean, there've been tight games against Tyrone. That, if you remember, even going back more recently than that, Chris. What year I'm all mixed up in my years now. This is terrible. We played them in a quarterfinal or semi-finals, quarterfinal, and it was literally tit for tat. It was, you know, point for point, and we won it by a point in the end. So, like, I mean, I don't know. I can't see Tyrone offering up anything too quickly. And then the other side of me has this suspicion, you know, and I'm going to just throw it out there. I haven't said it out loud because people will laugh at me. But, you know, Mayo haven't played a full game yet. They haven't played a full game. No disrespect to Sligo Leitrim, blitzed opposition there, and it's a discussion for another day about what you do for counties like that, because it's horrific. But you look at, like, Galway, we didn't play for the first half.
Oh, okay, I get you now. Yeah, I didn't understand. I was like,
you thought we were only playing a half game and winning.
What games was she watching? They played extra time.
I tuned out for the first half of every game. I don't go in for the first half of any game because I know they won't turn up.
Yes, they haven't performed for a full game.
And I do think it's in them. You know, they have a lot of power. They have a lot of pace. I think they were trying to do maybe a bit of a Dublin thing with the control in it. They played a dodgy game, and it could have been, you know, trying to control the fact that they wouldn't concede an early goal, that they'd be maybe able to pace up then when they wanted to. Things happened. We were lucky as well in that Dublin game. Like, you know, things came off for us that wouldn't come off for us in other years. But every team needs luck to win an All-Ireland. There's no team that has won an All-Ireland that doesn't have luck. And we have to have a rub with the green as well. And I just think, you know, if Mayo ever decided to play for 60 plus minutes, I think there's no team in Ireland that would stay with them, being honest.
Yeah, well, I have the same opinion. And it wouldn't have mattered to me whether it was Tyrone or Kerry. In fact, I would have preferred Kerry.
I would have after, because I think Kerry were just, now Kerry in the final too, they're never going to be easy, but I just think their defence, I mean, I don't know what was going on. But remember, lads, here as well, we're probably, even in my prediction as well, with the 16-15 or 16-14, we're thinking of a Tyrone team, or I'm thinking of a Tyrone team under Mickey Hart that was very defensive and maybe not coming forward as much. They're not playing like that. And if Kerry had their head screwed on and David Clifford wasn't off injured,
Yeah.
in that semi-final, Kerry got in for goal chances. They got behind them for goal chances. They didn't put them away. Now I hope to God that if we're offered up gifts like that,
the other side of it is that Kerry didn't run from deep.
No.
The way that Mayo run from deep. Creating an overload. So, and that's not going to change. We all know that Mayo are going to, like, Enda Hessian coming from deep in the semi-final made a massive difference.
Massive.
And that type of running from deep will create space for Tommy Conroy or whoever.
Absolutely. And I think if Oisin Mullen is back, and if he is, as we talked about earlier, I hope that if he's back, he's fully fit. Brilliant tackler, but by God, like his pace, he is like a young Keith Higgins.
Paddy Durkin will get beyond the midfield. You'll see
Leroy Keegan. We haven't spoken about Leroy, like, and the resurgence of Leroy. Leroy, we nearly just funeral written for him. His epitaph.
That's right.
Like, he wasn't. I mean, what the man only came into it in extra time. Like he was like an animal in extra time.
He was like, he got RT player of the match, and
I don't know which got which. Porrick, one got Sky.
I think Sky gave it to Leroy. I think
like crazy stuff. So I mean, look, we have options, and I think in other years, if you remember, like, you know, that 2017 final that we spoke about earlier, by the end of the game, Angie Morgan had gone off injured, Colin Boyle had gone off, you know, Tony Vaughan had been sent off. We had lost like 4 or 5 big names.
That's right.
No big names to come on for them. And we probably had a couple of injuries picked up along the way that year, or, you know, something had happened when we lost a player.
Now we've players that you want to see coming on.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can't wait for them to come on.
The one thing that our bench definitely has in spades is pace. Whereas we didn't have a bench which would have added, like, the last 10 minutes when everyone's getting tired.
They would have added that pace, exactly. Yeah. I worry a bit about the Tyrone bench. I think it's better than the Dublin bench.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think McShane is going to start. And if you're throwing him into the mix now, you know.
Yeah.
It's funny, John Mahon said he should start. That if he was manager, that he would play.
Yeah, that's interesting. Oh, and I mean, based on performance, but there seems to be a lot of talk that they won't, that they'll throw him in. I don't know. I mean, look, that's
it's a funny one. It's a funny one.
Well, look, you're nearly as qualified as John Mahon at this stage.
No, I'm not. I will not.
You know, it's we want you to say it so that we can tell John Mahon that you said you were more qualified than John Mahon.
Oh yeah, straight away. Oh, do you know what she said? Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. That's the only thing. Like, they see, in fairness, Tyrone seem to have, when they brought players on the last day. You know, and if COVID does that to you, lads, I'm hoping I catch it, because my ankle.
Right, listen.
We better leave it there. We better leave it there.
Okay, listen, guys. Thanks a million.
No, thank you so much.
I come on the team ones just to oversee it.
Yes, of course you can.
Angelina, you'll come on when we have to do the replay podcast.
Oh, please, Pete. Honestly, can't deal with replay. So I hope
1-6 to 1-6.
If
no, 216 to 114.
We'll see who's closest. We'll see.
Mayo for Sam.
Yeah, at least we're not getting carried away with ourselves.
Thank God. No, it's completely calm. And I'll always go around the house in agreement.
Yeah, the balloon's ready to blow.
All right, guys, thank you very much.
See you later.
See you.
And thanks so much.
All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the Dead Hedgehogs YouTube channel.
Look, guys, and thank you very much for your support. And if you would like to support us a little bit more, you can always become a patron. The link is in the description. Cheers, guys.